The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it, Hail Varsity Radio on the road, Dublin, the Dublin Weekend Edition. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, here at the Merry Cobbler. Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. Kraynak, we have survived Dublin
so
for now.
Far.
It is incredible.
Yep.
We've had a blast. I had a big old Irish breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm on my third cup of coffee. And it is game day. We are 4.5 hours away from kickoff here in Dublin. We're not far from the stadium here at the Merry Cobbler. We are loaded up. Brandon Vogel on site with us here from HailVarsity.com and magazine. Eric Francis, of course, going to be snapping pics for you to see in the next issue of Hail Varsity. But we have a game to talk about. The Iron Horse will join us stateside. We are going to try and get an Erin Sorensen signing. We shall see. And time permitting.
She's in demand.
She is.
She's in demand.
She's been just crushing it with all of her coverage and insight. Her and Vogue's at the pep rally last night. 5,000 strong Nebraskans there. And Dublin is painted red right now, as is the Merry Cobbler. Numbers to get in and join us this morning on Hail Varsity, the Dublin edition. 466-3776, 466-3776. Toll free, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at HailVarsity.com and find us on Twitter at HVarsityRadio. The Twitter handle for the radio show at Hail Varsity for all your Husker football needs. At Schmidt_radio, Chris Schmidt, that's me, and at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbal. You're watching us, enjoy. We are streaming live on ESPN Lincoln's Facebook. We're also streaming live ESPN Lincoln's Twitter handle. So that is all the ways to get in touch with us. Elijah, how are you shaking this morning? What's the good news?
Doing well. The mustache is curled, and I am just amped up for game day. So, I mean, it's one of those days. We've been waiting for it for 9 months, right? It's almost a little surreal that it's here. It's like Christmas morning, but I'm just ready to get it going, and hopefully the result is some good presents under the tree and not some, coal.
God, and you mentioned 9 months, and I think it's important. We talk about this daily. We breathe this stuff all the time. I think it's important to reset just exactly where we're at and just all the things that have transpired as we watch this team take the field today. I mean, it has been a complete overhaul offensively, not just with the staff. The entire offensive staff is new today. The primary playmakers, from what we know, are also entirely new. The person calling the plays is entirely new. Scott Frost not taking a direct role in the play calling is new. Quarterback is new. There are a lot of unknowns today as Nebraska takes the field. And on top of that, you have Scott Frost under an amount of pressure. You already are under pressure when you're the head coach at Nebraska, of course. But that October 1st buyout date looms large. And, of course, you don't want to think about that consciously if you're the head coach during a game. But you want to see how he manages the team and the overall game, not just the pieces of it, not just the offensive play calling, the overall game. And if it is tight, does he let his coaches coach? Does he intervene? Things like that are things to watch today because, as we know, Northwestern, traditionally, a tough out, right? And it is unlikely to go like it did last year. If it does, great. Very unlikely that it's going to go like it did last year where Nebraska just trounces them from the word jump.
Too much new, to your point, Mark. Too much new to be comfortable if you're not sure yourself. What's your confidence level if you're Nebraska? Hay's in the barn, right? You've done your training, you've done your prep, you've had time together. So it is going to get down to tight moments on the football field. That could be an early momentum opportunity in the first quarter or a shot in the fourth quarter to seize. Do you wilt? Do you win?
Right.
And that's what the big question mark is. You have the new and you have the adversity. You have the new faces, you have the adversity that is to come in a football game, specifically against Northwestern, because they make you earn every single inch. You've seen the line move, fellas. You've seen the line go from 13.5 down to 11. And there are some
Overnight.
There are some unconfirmed rumors out there. And we're not Mr. Gossip, but Kraynak, some stuff that is floating out there beyond Omar Manning's availability.
Right.
It's beyond, your top returning receiver being a question mark going into kickoff.
Yeah, these are by no means reports that we are stating as fact. There have been no official anything, but they are things to watch as the day progresses.
Like who's available?
And as the game kicks off. But there is talk that Omar Manning will not be available today. He is Nebraska's top returning production guy at receiver. Doesn't mean he was going to be the number one target necessarily, but their top returning production guy. On top of that, there's some talk that you could have some issues at right tackle with sickness with Benhart. So there's a chance that's, again, unsubstantiated, things to watch. And then this one is probably the most salacious rumor, and I don't know how much stock we'll put into this, and I think it is par for the course that you hear about things like this when a team is covered like a soap opera, which Nebraska fits that bill. But there's talk of guys got in fights last night, and so there's a handful of folks that are not going to be available for today's game because they're in a fight. Out of all those rumors, that's the one I probably put the least amount of stock in, only because the night before a game, really?
Are you out of your room at a casino per se?
Yeah, it's that one doesn't
kickoff. You're not allowed out of your room typically.
Well, and especially when you look at where Nebraska was staying too, you would have to make a really concerted, devious effort to break off of those estate grounds and go out to a casino the night before a 300-pound Big Ten guy is going to be leaning on you. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
If you were to do it, though, Ferris Bueller gave you the best blueprint.
Yeah.
With the mannequin and the stereo setup to mimic snoring.
But at the same time, where there's smoke, there is usually some fire. So just some things to watch as the day progresses. And if you're watching the game and you're like, oh, where is X or where is Y? Who knows? That could be a part of the deal. But regardless, I don't think that's something we should put a lot of stock in and say too much. But just some reports that are coming out as folks are just waking up back home in Nebraska. Some things that have been floating around this morning.
A sea of red is here at the Merry Cobbler. Folks are continuing to file in all sorts of red, all sorts of white. Husker Nation is in full throat here. And they'll be well hydrated at the Merry Cobbler. And Jameson, Guinness, and other options. Will has really taken wonderful care of us here at the Merry Cobbler. This trip, big thanks to Union Bank and Trust also making that happen for us. Artez Craig, biggest Nebraska fan there is. Brother of Roger Craig, fan of the show, is on the line with us as he's hauling goods across the country. Artez, you got us.
Go Big Red.
There he is, Artez Craig, chiming in. How you feeling today?
Oh, man, I'm excited, man. I was watching ESPN last night, and Tristan Hurrdat is playing in the Big Ten championship game, so that's interesting.
Yes, he does. Kirk Herbstreit calling a shot, Ohio State versus Nebraska in Indy. Vogel and I want to go back to Indy for more shrimp cocktail. Might as well check out a Big Ten title game while we're there. How you feeling about today, though?
You guys survived last night?
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, we did all right.
Yeah.
I had some lamb. It was incredible.
Yeah, a little rack of lamb, not so bad.
Had an Irish breakfast this morning, so I'm up to playing weight, brother.
For Irish
So what's
breakfast.
the weather like in Dublin today?
Come again?
What's the weather going to be like in Dublin at the game time?
Oh, it's 67 degrees, light wind, sunny and beautiful. I mean, it is picturesque.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited, man, and
Okay, real quick, kickoff, we're looking at 64 degrees and a little bit of sun peeking through the clouds.
Awesome. So there's like 5,000 people at that rally yesterday?
Yep, Pep Rally had 5,000. It was good.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, look, I want you guys to enjoy your day and go Big Red, and I'll be looking for you on television. You know, all you got to do is take your shirt off and put a big red in, and
The section would clear if I took my shirt off, Artez. But hey, man,
well,
you
you guys
take
enjoy
care
the
of me
games,
safe
man.
this
We
weekend.
listen to you all day. All right,
All right, there he is.
Appreciate it.
Artez Craig, our favorite trucker, man. We love him.
Light winds tonight, too. They're saying, 7-mile-an-hour winds out of the east. So, honestly, weather does not appear like it'll be any sort of significant factor tonight. It's not going to be too hot, not going to be too cold, not too windy. No precipitation is forecast for the moment. It looks like weather is going to stay at bay, and that is a good thing.
Lot to get into here as Brandon Vogel waiting in the wings for us here. Hail Varsity Radio, the Dublin edition, weekend edition here at the Merry Cobbler, just across from the stadium. Elijah, there's a lot to process this morning. We've laid out what this moment means. Can Nebraska meet their moment when it comes to organization, execution, and can they handle adversity? The run game is going to be extremely key today. The offensive line will be of utmost importance. And can you get a tone set from your defense? Can you use that defense, those pass rushers that you've acquired, those new faces on the defensive side, to make a difference and mess with Northwestern? We have an Erin Sorensen sighting.
She's on site.
How was the run? It was good?
Yeah.
Some of us at the other end of the table need to do some exercise.
Everything you need, right?
We're good. Brian, nice to see you. Thanks for everything.
Sure.
So when you look at running back and defensive end, a couple things you brought up, and Brennan on Facebook is asking how many running backs will we see in the game today? Over under of 3.
I'd go 4.
I'd almost call a push on that one, but I think there's no question you're going to see Anthony Grant. You're definitely going to see Ramir Johnson, but he's more of that kind of newer
Slot.
duck R type position where you'll see him motion from the slot into the backfield. You'll see him line up as a receiver, so you would count him as one. Gabe Irvin is probably going to get some snaps, and I would assume Jaquez Yan. So I guess, maybe you would go the over with Ramir as the one that is
On a
definitely pushing it.
On a technicality, you're going to see Ramir in the other 3.
Now, defensive end is one that's super intriguing to me because the competition level has ratcheted up. So you got a couple things that work here. One, you have Garrett Nelson, who has continued to, he's your classic Nebraska development guy, right? He comes in a little undersized, obviously has a ridiculous work ethic, a wrestling background. His father was a wrestler at Nebraska, takes it very seriously, one of the first Western Nebraska scholarship guys in a number of years. So he has now stacked, this is year number 4 for him in the program, dialing in his eating, dialing in his technique, dialing in his strength and conditioning, to where now he trots it there, not as an undersized guy, but as a prototype defensive end size. So you have him. Then you bring in O'Shawn Mathis, who comes in from TCU and was very highly touted as a pass rusher. I think maybe a tad bit overblown. Pass rushers are gold, but it's not like the guy was putting up ridiculous sack numbers last year. Texas Christian had a tough year. That was part of it. He is a very talented guy, but he does ratchet up the competition level. But then I think really the X factor is with Caleb Tanner.
Sure.
And Caleb Tanner had a highlight reel sack last year against Northwestern where he just completely overruns the right tackle and gets to the quarterback. Literally knocks him on his butt. Same guy that's going to be at right tackle today for Northwestern. But the fact that he got elected captain really speaks to just how much he has started to dial in and take a cue from a Garrett Nelson to take everything seriously, earn the respect of his teammates. So now you have 3 guys that are legitimately competent pass rushers. I don't think either of them are superstars. I don't think either of them are Randy Gregory, but I don't think you have to be. No. I don't think you have to be. And the fact that you have 3 of them, when in most years over the past 7, 8, you could count maybe
searching for one.
Yeah, looking for one. Now you got 3. So I think you couple that with the fact that Chinander has really established a culture, established a nice complement of players. You have a really good secondary. That's sort of just par for the course with this kind of with the Chinander and Travis Fisher coach team. And now you got some pass rushing options where it's not just one. That is absolutely something to look out for, especially when you consider that Northwestern is not going to have a juggernaut of an offensive team. Nope. So if you can keep their running game at bay, and they do have 2 guys who have done it at a high level in Division I, right? They're both 2,000-yard guys that are going to be in the backfield. I don't think you should sneeze at that by any stretch. And you also have a left tackle who's probably the best left tackle in America, right? So there are some interesting factors to consider here, but I think on the whole, when you have 3 competent pass rushing options, Nebraska has not been able to say that for a long time, and we'll see if that bears fruit today.
See, it needs to bear fruit. Elijah, jump in here, buddy.
See, I'm not worried about the pass rush headed into the game today. That's not my concern, because I look at these guys. Garrett Nelson is a guy who has been there and done that, and as the season went on last season, he stepped into his own as his pass rusher. Caleb Tanner, I'll say the same thing. I'm not worried about what those guys are bringing pass rush-wise. I'm more worried about that interior defensive line, and worry's not the right word. It's time for them to prove it, though. Ty Robinson, Colton Feast, Stephon Wynn. Not only is it a question of can they get after the passer, it's a question to me of can they stop that run game, because it's not coming down to those 3 guys on the edge to stop the run. It's that interior defensive line. They need to step up, eat up some blocks, eat up some double teams, let those linebackers behind them be clear to go make plays and be all over the field. And just, I mean, the depth there is still the question. Who is behind the starting 3? And if those 3 guys can step up, and if there's some guys behind them that can get some significant playing time today, I think it means great things for this Nebraska team, because the key with Northwestern is not going to be getting after the passer. It's going to be stopping their run game.
Here's what you're hoping out of Colton Feast. If you're Nebraska, you're hoping for Ty Steinkühler 2008.
Boom.
All right?
Good
Remember
comparison.
Bo Pelini's first year. Ty Steinkühler hadn't gotten a ton of playing time before that.
Baker Steinkühler?
And he worked. He was a. Well, I'm sorry.
Baker Steinkühler?
Baker.
No, I'm talking about Ty, his brother. Lesser heralded. Yeah, Baker joined the team around that same time, but Ty, his older brother, was on the team. I don't even know if he started as a scholarship guy. He might have started as a walk-on. But what he did for that interior of the defensive line is sort of exactly what you're talking about. Sue was not Sue at that point yet. He was not. And so Ty Steinkühler, a little bit undersized, I believe he went around 280, 285. But he stabilized the middle of that defense to give them a chance. And by the end of the year, when Sue had ascended, Ty was a force to be reckoned with, because Sue got all the attention, and Steinkühler had that motor that was ridiculous. He was undersized, very similar to Feast. Pretty good athlete at that position. Undersized. That's what you need out of Colton Feast today. And nobody was talking about Ty Steinkühler at the beginning of the year. But by the end of the year, by mid to end of the year, you were like, that is a guy you can count on.
Heart and soul.
That is a guy that you don't have to sub out. He's conditioned enough to where he can just play snap after snap after snap after snap. So you would hope Feast can be that comp for Nebraska this year with a Ty Robinson, who definitely has NFL potential and has been playing a lot since the second he stepped foot on campus.
Yeah, and you have Robinson's task to make that jump from contributor to splash maker. Yep. Hail Varsity Radio is on the road. We are at the Merry Cobbler in Dublin, ahead of Nebraska-Northwestern, the 2022 season set to kick off. A quick timeout. Brandon Vogel, Erin Sorensen on site with us as Dublin is red and Nebraska gets ready to tangle with Northwestern here at about 3.5 hours. Hail Varsity continues on. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Back with Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery with Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Back here at the Merry Cobbler in Dublin, Hail Varsity Radio Weekend, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Our friends at Union Bank and Trust helping make this road show happen. Mark Kraynak, what year's that sweater from?
Oh, man, I don't know. I've had it since 6-7 years.
The scoring explosion era?
No, it's retro like that, though.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Get some. I only get to wear it a few times a year. I mean, it's a sweater that, it's not like you can wear this to work. You know, I mean, you can, but you kind of. So yeah, I get to wear it once, twice a year, maybe. If you can't wear it, they call sweaters jumpers.
yes, they do.
I'm in a jumper.
Brandon Vogel is not wearing a jumper, but
no, he is. That would be considered a jumper. Yeah. He's got a nice jumper. Is that merino wool?
No, this is linen. This is Irish linen.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. The tie, is that?
No, that's just I think cotton.
Okay.
The hat? I'm kidding. We don't need to know like that.
Is Vogue's wearing a black shirt underneath? Did you get a black shirt this week?
I did not get a black shirt. I haven't played for Nebraska yet, so I can't get a black shirt yet. I think after today, if I get into the game, I think I'll earn one.
You might.
I'll tell you. Hey, so you go to road trips often. Obviously, you cover all the games. How would this compare to, say, is there a comp you can think of in terms of amount of Husker fans bumping around the city? Is there a comp you can think of, even going back to the Big 12 days or the Big 10 days? Is this equivalent to what you might see in Lawrence or in Minneapolis?
Reminds me of Boulder.
Or Iowa City, Boulder. Yeah, is there a comp you can think of?
Yeah, that Colorado game from a couple of years ago is probably a good example of, we knew there were going to be a lot of Nebraska fans there, but once you get in the city and you see, you're like, oh, there's even more here. I mean, it feels, you don't see this as much. Chicago's a big city, but like we've seen, Nebraska take over Northwestern's home stadium, right?
Right.
And I think that's probably going to be the case here, but the city is a little bit smaller. You just run into people on the street, and everyone, a lot of people are here for the first time. They're doing a lot of the same things that you do when you come to Dublin, so you just kind of encounter people in red everywhere.
Well, a chime in here on StreamYard. We're streaming on ESPN Lincoln Facebook, ESPN Lincoln Twitter. Vogue, since you're in the hot seat, I'll let you handle this. Hayden asks, how many quarterbacks do we see today? 1, 2, 3. I mean, how many are you thinking? Do we see a little Logan Smithers red zone Tebow tribute option?
Yeah, I think we'll see 2. I think they'll have something, a package, and whether it's Purdy or Smothers, and how they decide to do that. I think you'll see somebody take a couple of snaps in some fashion. I mean, if you're a Nebraska fan, it'd be great. Chuba Purdy played a couple series, but that might be a big ask for the first game of the season with a new offense, new quarterback, new pass catch battery, the whole thing. So, but I do think we'll see somebody other than Thompson take every snap in this game.
Yeah, Logan Smothers would probably be that leader in the clubhouse, right? You've heard, you don't get to watch practices, obviously, but you've heard that Chuba Purdy, probably your most explosive playmaking option overall, run pass, but has to take better care of the ball, right?
Wait.
Folks, let's go ahead.
I was going to jump in here. The way I see it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that Logan Smothers is your guy that I think you might have a package for, maybe a red zone package, but if Casey Thompson's not performing up to snuff, Chuba Purdy's the guy who comes in and takes some snaps if Casey's not the guy that you expect him to be, but Logan Smothers is that package guy, the specialty guy. Am I seeing that right?
It's a little tough to hear you here as the Merry Cobbler is starting to really fill up here, but I think essentially what Elijah was asking is if Casey Thompson's not getting the job done, who's the guy that's the first in? I would put my money on Logan Smothers just for the experience factor and just for sort of the he'll stabilize things factor. Is that how you see it, Brandon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Whipple has said all offseason that there's, that option game that Nebraska ran so well, particularly against Northwestern a year ago, isn't gone. And, it's still tough to square for me personally because I'm like, well, that wasn't part of what you did at Pitt. And I don't think it's a big part of where Nebraska. So how does that whole thing fold in here? I mean, you can run some of that stuff with Casey Thompson. It's not like he can't move back there, but I hold out a little space for there to be some special wrinkles that way. And if you've got quarterbacks that are as close as these three reportedly were, the big difference with Thompson was the experience angle, and that's legit. It's particularly important in a game like this, I think. But I think we'll see some guys get a little bit specialized, and that's a little bit unique at quarterback.
Brandon Vogel with us here at the Merry Cobbler Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow weekend in Dublin. Erin Sorensen is on the way. As we'll get caught up with her as well. Great coverage from Hail Varsity's Erin Sorensen and Brandon Vogel here this week, practices. So I got to ask you, this Northwestern team, you got to earn it against them. No matter how boring or basic they look, they are really good at dotting I's, crossing T's. So your biggest concern today with Northwestern, is it their power run game, or is it just the fact that they're opportunistic and you lose the turnover battle? There's your difference.
Yeah, I thought Gary Barnett on the show this week put it really well. Like, the toughest thing with Northwestern is you've got to beat the team. Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern goes up and down, but they build strong teams. And arguably, that's been an issue with Nebraska in the past, I think. I think that's why you've seen so many of these close losses and things like that. So that's first and foremost. And a more practical, like, how's the game going to go piece of it. That Northwestern run game, they bring back 4 starters on the offensive line. They've got one of the best tackles in the country. Like, that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to run the football, take their time, and against the Nebraska defensive line that's fairly revamped, that's a fair question. You flip it around, I think the question for Nebraska's offense is, what's Casey Thompson like? The strength of this Northwestern group, I think, is in the secondary and the back 7. Over the past 5, 6, 7 years, you need to complete about 63-65% to beat Northwestern. Casey Thompson's done that 5 times in 10 games. 11 games, including the bowl game start that he got. So where's that end up? Those are 2 numbers I'm going to be watching. What's Nebraska's completion percentage? And then defensively, how many yards rushing are they allowing per carry?
Let's flip over to Nebraska defensively. And, talked about him a little bit already today. But I'm telling you, he's the most intriguing story on the entire defense to me, and that is Caleb Tanner. And one reason why I'm bringing him up is that the average Nebraska fan doesn't even know who he is. He has very little name recognition, yet he gets elected captain by his teammates. And then, Brandon, you've seen a lot of these players up close. I would put Caleb Tanner in my top 4 in terms of off-the-bus physical specimen team. You got Prohaska up there. You got Omar Manning up there. Caleb Tanner, it may not translate on television, but when you see him in person, there are very few human beings that have walked through those doors that look like Caleb Tanner.
He's a Twitch guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he kind of showed up that way, which I think is, why his career feels a little bit strange. I mean, not that he hasn't improved himself while he's been here. He has physically, but he came in at a high level. Problem was, and Garrett Nelson talked about this, before the team left for Ireland, like, it was kind of a mess in terms of, being a freshman, and he looked the part then, but didn't have all the other parts. Now, him getting named captain tells me he's pretty darn close to having all the other parts, plus the season that he had last year. And you look at that edge group with the addition of Mathis, like, if it were just Nelson and Tanner, you'd be like, okay, great. And it was. And then they added Mathis. So now you've got 3 guys that you can kind of mix and match and get creative with. If that's not that, along with the inside linebackers, also really strong, if that's not the strength of the team by the time we get to the end of this season, something went wrong.
Vogues, I want to get your thought here. When push comes to shove, who are you circling as a trust guy? Trust factor is going to be where on offense? Is it going to be a guy like Anthony Grant to get you the hard yards? Is it going to be a trust issue or decision with the offensive line on 3rd and short? How's Nebraska going to get down when they have to?
Yeah, so the guys I would put in my circle of trust at this moment right now, I'd probably look to the running backs. There's a lot to be figured out at wide receiver, but Gabe Irvin, he'll be making a return after a long time away due to injury. Feel pretty good about him, and I think you can put Ramir Johnson in that category too, based both on what he earned last year, filling in after Irvin was out, but then also just kind of the position switch, the fact that he's going to be out in the slot. So, I think that's pretty encouraging news. Those are two guys I think when the chips get down, this offense might turn to. Just outside the circle of trust for me, still at this moment, it's got to be the offensive. It's got
the Gregs.
Yeah, it's got to be the offensive line still at this point. There's a lot to prove there. I can look at that group and feel decent about it, at least in terms of a talent perspective, and what you hear about playing together as a unit, about kind of the key difference that Raiola has made to this point. All encouraging stuff, but we got to see it in a couple hours, a couple blocks away.
You do, as we're here at the Merry Cobbler, Brandon Vogel on site, Dublin, Ireland, Nebraska taking over part of Europe. Mark Kraynak is here. The thing that we're curious about is the offensive line, to your point, and if you are without some guys that were penciled in to start, the roster of 10 have all either played or started at other spots in their college career. So there is some experience when it comes to your second team.
Yeah, there is. And I mean, that's
Hunter Anthony could be a big name today.
He really could. And that's a guy, that's why you go get a player like that. A guy who's played some snaps at this Power 5 level. And if you got to put him in the game, you're not starting from scratch. But you look across the line, even if it's Anthony, that's an experienced group. We're just kind of waiting on consistent, replicable results. And we'll see. Nebraska made a change at that spot for a reason.
Going back to defense, another guy that not a household name by any stretch. He had 3 total tackles last year. Marquise Buford earns a black shirt, right? And he's going to be starting with Miles Farmer at the safety spot. That's a spot that you're replacing a couple 5-6 year guys in Markel Dismuke and Deontay Williams, who really stabilized that position last year. What do we know about Marquise Buford? I know he's 5'11", 190, so he doesn't have that prototypical safety size. What is it about him that coaches are so bullish on? How did he take that spot? Because there were a lot of options that Travis Fisher had.
Yeah, I think it's largely a mental thing. That coaches have talked about. He understands the game at a high level. Shenander said this week in Dublin, he's like, we could have played him last year, and they did play him on special teams. They didn't need him with the safeties that they had coming back. And you're right. You look at him. You talk about Caleb Tanner. You look at Marquise Buford. I saw him in practice. I was like, he looks like a gymnast, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's a little bit outside the norm, maybe at safety, but that there tells me he must do some things that other guys just can't do, because he's not the 6'3". He's not a Singleton. You've got that guy if you want him, and I think he'll play. A 6'3", 220 safety. So I look at this defensive backs group as a whole, even outside of safety. I think they have a chance. I think they'll give up a few more big plays. They're younger. I think they have a chance to create a little bit more havoc with a little bit more athleticism there. I mean, you look at Deontay Williams and Markel Dismuke. For as good as they were, a lot of times it was clear they'd been banged up.
Yeah. And Guy, you just said it, havoc plays. And when you look at Eric Chinander's defense, it has shown methodical improvement year after year after year. Is that really the one piece that we haven't seen in your eyes, that in order for them to take a next step to turn into not just a competent defense, but potentially an elite type defense?
Yeah, I think defensively the gasoline on the glowing coals here, which is nice. It kept all of us warm for the past 4 seasons. It just hasn't kind of leapt up yet, is that piece of it. And you really gotta if Nebraska can stay where they were for the most part last year and add that. So with the edge rushers we talked about, you get a few more plays in the backfield. If you get a few more takeaways via the secondary, then you're really, I think, stepping this thing up. A bigger step than they've even taken kind of year to year over the past 4 seasons.
Brandon Vogel, managing editor, HailVarsity.com and magazine. We're here at the Merry Cobbler Dublin, Ireland weekend edition. Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt. Vogues, I need a prediction before we let you go. Thank you so much for making time and yay, and are you going to get the fish again here at the Merry Cobbler? Are you going to do the lamb burger? What are you feeling today?
I haven't decided yet. The wings look pretty good.
They are.
I mean, we don't hurt for wings in the U.S., and they look good enough that they look good enough that I'm intrigued. So I think I might go that route. Prediction-wise, it goes back and forth by the hour, and we still got a couple of hours for the game. I'm somewhere in the probably 31-14, 31-17 range, Nebraska.
Okay. Quick timeout. We will spend some time with Erin Sorensen next. Our friends from Union Bank and Trust also going to pop by as we are here at the Merry Cobbler in Dublin. Nebraska-Northwestern getting kicked off here in a couple hours. It's Hail Varsity Weekend presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Early to rise with Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Here's Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Back here at the Merry Cobbler, it's Hail Varsity Radio Weekend. We're in Dublin. We're stream-yarding this thing live. Can find it on ESPN Lincoln's Facebook. Video coverage, ESPN Lincoln's Twitter handle. Big thanks to Brandon Vogel. Uncle Mark has chimed in. Says I look a little too uptight for 145. Iowa Russ has chimed in, wondering what I'm drinking in here. It is not Jameson, Iowa Russ. It is black coffee.
Yeah, hamburger too.
Mark Kraynak is giving menu tips.
Euro means burger.
Yes,
sort of.
And Erin Sorensen is. Erin's joining us here in 2 seconds to get her perspective on things. And our friends from Union Bank.
Oh, we were on the air, and I was just over here talking about
you were just
Guinness
giving
and all
Guinness
that.
and food and all that. And
Win
we
in
welcome
Rome.
in, right, Erin Sorensen. Thank you for coming by. You've been all over Dublin, not only jogging, but you've also been at pep rallies and incredible social content for the Hail Varsity subscribers. How's your trip been?
It's good. I've been here almost like almost a full week at this point. No, I have been. It was a week ago Saturday that I got here, so it's going to be strange to go back home. I think I live here now.
One of your favorite spots, Hoth?
Hoyt is how you say it, by the way.
That's where we're...
Hoyt.
Okay, so we're staying in
Holt.
Holt. Yeah, there you go. You kind of don't pronounce the H.
Yeah.
Favorite spot so far, or what?
The G is silent.
The Bailey Lighthouse was pretty great, which is like it's kind of out on its own, and you can't technically get to it, but you can hike very close to it. And the whole hike, honestly, if you were coming to Dublin and you were asking me what's worth it, going to the Cliffs of Moher or going to the Bailey Lighthouse, I would say go to Hope and go to the Bailey Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Now, if you have the time, definitely go to the Cliffs of Moher and Galway and everything, but it was really cool.
That is one thing about here is that Cliffs of Moher obviously are great. They're very cool to see, no doubt, but the entire West Coast is basically like that. The Cliffs of Moher happen to just be kind of the most accessible.
Now, they're very cool.
Yes.
At the same time,
Very.
Absolutely unreal. But I'm just saying, if you don't have the time to get to the other side of the country, you can have a really good experience on the eastern side as well.
Erin, let's talk Nebraska experience. And the fan base is starved. They're here in droves. Dublin is red. Mm-hmm. And what's your assessment of the ball game today here? Are you feeling like Nebraska's ready?
Scott Frost was the one who said the hay is in the barn. So at this point, you really can't. There's not much more you can do besides just play the game. And I truly think because of the overhaul of the offensive staff and the number of transfers, there's so much unknown that even if we sat there and thought to ourselves this is everything all of the information I've acquired since the end of last season. Honestly, I don't know if any of it's enough to know what's going to happen today. Now, what I do know is that Northwestern is a team that can be very scrappy, can put together especially last-minute wins when the door is open for them. If there's an opportunity, this is a team. Pat Fitzgerald typically knows how to take advantage of it. With that said, you do not want to give them that opportunity. So can Nebraska... I thought Mark Whipple said it right. Can Nebraska get solidified in that first quarter, get themselves in a position to shake off the rust, just get settled in? If they can do that, you got to feel pretty good about where things are going, at least for game one. But I will say, like, I don't think anything is given based on how Nebraska plays. So if Nebraska does really well today, I don't know if I sit there and go, you know, they're suddenly 4-0, and I think every week is going to be a prove it week, because so many unknowns can happen. And the other part that people don't seem to, like, we haven't been talking about is COVID is still a thing. You could still have players who get sick and aren't able to play, could change your lineup, injuries might happen. We're going to find out what this team is all about and the depth and everything we've heard about that we haven't gotten to see yet. Now we get to.
You know, we were talking to one of the players' parents at our layover, and just, of course, peppering him with 5 million questions about what's the team like, what about this guy, what about this guy, and the general takeaway that he left us with is the team is cohesive, but they don't. There seems to be a bit of a tension, but a good one. Of just like, guys aren't relaxed and sort of easygoing. Guys are just sort of wired, and they don't really know either. There are a lot of unknowns in terms of how they get together. I'm wondering if you've gotten that sense as you've been around the team. And then secondly, Scott Frost looks, at least last night at the pep rally,
he looks chill,
more relaxed despite the pressure that he's under than maybe you would expect.
Now, to be completely fair, and this is me not saying anything, he can also just be really good at PR and knowing that everyone has eyes on him right now, and that if I'm showing up to these things, I better look more relaxed.
I better be in a good mood.
Yeah,
I better project the positive.
With that said, I think this is the time, and this week especially, is when you can feel the most hopeful, you can feel the most relaxed. Now, if things are to, like, say, go south, I don't know if we see quite that relaxed vibe anymore. But I would say, like, it's a really interesting point that you brought up, because I actually noticed a difference in sort of how the players who are on stage at the pep rally, those are mostly freshmen players who are likely not going to see game time. They can only suit up 74 out of the 110 that they brought.
Right.
So these are players where they're much looser. They're just like having the time of their life.
Sure.
They're in Ireland. They're not going to play on Saturday. They're just like, this is amazing. Very different vibe than the players that you know are going to be suiting up today. They're the Travis Vokalek, they're the Garrett Nelsons, who are very dialed in. But I also think, like, your defense almost have a little bit of, like, the defense we know has been very solid as a unit so far. They're very cohesive.
Right.
We don't know 100%. Like, when you talk about the offense, you hear the running back say, our room is really cohesive, but I think as an offense, they're still kind of figuring each other out, whereas the defense is very confident in who they are as an overall unit. So it's going to be interesting to see if just game time kind of brings that together. I don't know. These are the joys of, I always joke, I'm glad that I'm not, like, the head coach and having to figure out, like, because there's also a psychology to all of this.
Oh,
like,
got a button push big time.
This isn't just, like, there's so much into this of, like, the psychology of how you get players to bond and be friends, and, like, I don't know, because not everyone vibes. Not everyone, look, we don't like everyone. Not everyone likes us. So, I mean, that's going to be the case on a team of 110 players. So the psychology of that, I don't envy the people who have to figure that stuff out.
We're up against top of the hour. Hang out if you feel like, and I know you guys got to get to the stadium as well, but hour 2 on the way here from the Merry Cobbler Hail Varsity live in Dublin, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Back with you, it's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Weekend Edition, live from Dublin, Ireland, the Merry Cobbler, where we are staying. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, and Brian and Erin Ray, our friends from Union Bank and Trust are here. We got to squeeze in like it's a family photo.
Yeah, we do.
Everyone wave. We're streaming live, ESPN Lincoln's Facebook and Twitter. Well, before we left on this adventure, Brian and Erin, we were talking about all the things to do in Dublin, what we were packing, how Nebraska would fare. So, quick little assignment here. How's the trip been? Have you guys had a great time? It's nice to see you again. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We've had a great time. We've taken in quite a bit of the city, done the Guinness tour, the Jameson Distillery tour. I got to say that Jameson was probably my favorite out of those two.
Good call.
And Jameson and ginger ale. Pretty solid. Yeah. So I think that's a new drink that I'll take back home with me. But yeah, we've had a great time so far.
Yeah, Trinity College was awesome, and yesterday we got 30,000 steps in, and we just enjoyed walking around the city. So the architecture is pretty awesome.
Did you say 30,000 steps?
Yes.
So I was here 5 years ago, and we climbed Mount Errigal, which is up in Donegal. It's like Northern Ireland. We only registered 29,000 steps that day climbing a mountain. Y'all did that walking on flat terrain.
Yeah, it was flat steps. They're easy steps. Right? So.
That's a lot, though. I'm going to do some quick math.
There's a lot of steps to cover.
That is 4,000 kilometers you guys covered, I believe, if my math is correct.
We had a long day yesterday.
Well, it was a good day, and now it is game day.
Are those metric steps? Are those metric steps or U.S. steps? I don't know.
We'll go with U.S.
Okay.
Not sure about the conversion.
Yeah.
We just got a shout out. Vic from Denver is here.
Oh,
listener of the show, all the way from Denver, made his way out here, which is great. So, guys, how are we feeling about game day today? We've made it through a lot of the week. More chips are on the way. These are incredible fries. I'm okay. I went heavy this morning with the Irish breakfast.
Oh, what'd you think?
Well, that was great.
Okay.
But just like, it's nappy time right now. We just started. So, but no, how are we feeling about the game? You were at the pep rally last night. You saw Trev and everybody?
Yeah, I said 31-10. I still feel good with that. Like, the guys seem relaxed, and I think it's going to be awesome.
Now, do you do road trips often? Have you done Husker road trips before?
I've done A&M in Colorado. Brian did.
We went to Oklahoma last year, me and my brother. So, but that was kind of the first for me, to be honest with you.
Where would you put this thing up? Because I think you naturally assume, since it's, I don't know, across the ocean, that maybe there would be a smaller contingent. How would you compare this to, say, the amount of fans you see out and about in College Station or in Boulder or in Norman? How would you compare?
I think it's been spot on, like maybe even a few more. It's like we're kind of staying down towards where the sports bars are for the Huskers, and just tons of Husker fans all over the place. It's really impressive. So.
I mean, they're saying 10,000, 13,000. I'm going to put it well north.
Last night.
But I mean, wouldn't you go well north of that?
I think I would.
You might even see 20, maybe.
You know, the cool thing, like, we met someone that was here from Scotland that's a Husker fan, Germany that was a Husker fan, London that's a Husker fan, like, and it's crazy where everybody's from that's coming in. So I think it's going to be a really good showing.
Well, and I don't know how they're doing the estimates, but I'm assuming they're doing like plane traffic from the U.S. to Dublin times 0.35%. Or, I don't know how they're doing the count. But there's so many folks that are unaccounted for, like you were just mentioning, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like you check a box, but I'm attending too. Like, you don't know how many are going to be here. But the amount of red here, it really does compare to what you would see in, like, Lawrence, Kansas 15 years ago.
A lot more red than purple, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Northwestern fans outnumbered mightily. We're here at the Merry Cobbler, Hail Varsity Radio, live from Dublin, as Erin and Brian Ray here from Union Bank and Trust, helping put on the road show here with Hail Varsity. We are so appreciative of that. Also helping sponsor the social media coverage, which has been second to none when it comes to this impressive trip for Nebraska and Nebraska fans. There's so many question marks about this season, and there's a lot of hope, and there can be a boatload more hope with a good showing today. Before we let you guys go, I got to ask, you got to pick one player that you think will perform well. You got to do a prediction for me.
Okay.
Kind of your pick to click. Same with you, Erin, with who you think's going to make a difference today for Nebraska.
I think O'Shawn Mathis. I think you're going to see him get a couple sacks today, stir things up in the backfield. He's going to do a good job.
So Brian is saying it's O'Shawn.
I'm buying in with Casey. I think it's going to be, I'm not a huge Texas lover, but maybe I will be after this year, so here we go.
That is good. Well, Casey Thompson has been on a stage. He's performed well. I think what Brandon Vogel was telling us a little earlier about the completion percentage.
Yeah.
Little pitch and catch. Nothing too exorbitant, but just be simple.
Yeah. Try not to turn it over, a la Adrian Martinez, who did a lot of good things. This is not to denigrate Adrian Martinez, but we do all know that when it kind of counted and when it kind of mattered on a fairly consistent basis year after year, the plays just were not made. And those weren't always his fumbles or always his interceptions. But the bottom line is when he was at the helm, the conversions didn't happen. So is Casey Thompson going to be a guy that turns that thing around and turns those one-score losses into one-score wins?
That's the key for Nebraska this season in the Big Ten with a more manageable schedule. The other part of this, too, Casey Thompson may have a lot more help around him than Adrian ever did.
Yeah.
You got to go back to freshman year, Adrian, with Ziggy and Stanley.
Yeah, it's the most talented roster that Scott Frost has had since he's been here. Across the board, every single position group. Hey, real quick, while we have with Union Bank and Trust, seeing your name associated with a lot of sporting events, high school, college, Union Bank and Trust Center up in Omaha is where thousands of girls play volleyball. There's a ton of AAU basketball. Why is that? Why is Union Bank and Trust putting your name and your sponsorship dollars behind athletics at all levels?
Yeah, they're just a local company and have a huge commitment to the community overall. They put so much money back into Lincoln and Omaha and Nebraska in general, all the communities that we bank in. Just athletic-loving family too, I think, but just to support the community overall. I think they do a great job. Makes me proud to be employed there.
That's so awesome. Yeah. Hey, it's been wonderful, Brian and Erin, to meet you, spend time. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Your partnership. You guys are awesome. Get something dark or light.
A quick recommendation. Try something. It's called beer. They have this thing called beer here. Try it.
And it's legendary.
It's delicious.
It's wonderful. It's legendary. That is outstanding. Elijah Herbal thought that was pretty funny. Try beer.
I like that one.
The chef Kraynak says try the Guinness. It's fantastic. A quick timeout. Hail Varsity rolls on hour 2 here at the Merry Cobbler Road Show on a Saturday live from Dublin. Hail Varsity continues on.
Glad to have you back.
Yes, sir. You heard me right.
Here are the guys, Schmidt and Kraynak.
Well, Hector, here's the game plan. You're going to bring us 2 absolute martinis. You know how I like them, straight up. And then precisely 7 1/2 minutes after that, you're going to bring us 2 more. Then 2 more after that every 5 minutes until one of us passes out. Excellent strategy, sir.
Back here at the Merry Cobbler Hail Varsity Weekend live in Dublin. Look what the betting man drug in. We welcome in Danny Burke, the pride of Chicago, VSiN Sports Network, to give some of his professional takes on things as we're all kind of going, what the hell? The line's now at -11. The Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, with us in about 15 minutes or so. Mark Kraynak is wearing his throwback Husker sweater. Chris Schmidt.
That's right.
And many thanks to all of you who are streaming us, ESPNLincoln.com, and also watching us on ESPN Lincoln's Facebook, ESPN Lincoln's Twitter. We talk every week. Danny Burke, now you are here in person, my friend. How has the world tour been for you in Europe?
It's been great, to say the least. I mean, we stopped in London. That was our first destination. We were there for a couple days, 2.5 days. Then we made our way to Amsterdam, and then we made our way to North Cary, where my buddy has family there. So we got to go on the farmland, just right on the mountains, up to the bay in the backyard. It was gorgeous. Just absolutely spoiled, and got to see everything that the country of Ireland has to offer outside of Dublin. So it's been spectacular. And now capping it off with coming here, seeing the Sea of Big Red. Can't ask for anything better up to this point.
You know, once you get on the west side, it's breathtakingly beautiful. Like, literally, you come around corners and you're like, oh, sound like you have to let out a visceral sound because it's just you've never seen crap like that before.
Right, exactly. It's and the thing is, like, and even if you see it, like, say, Colorado or West Coast, you get the mountains and it's amazing, but here it's just all green on all of the mountains, just beautiful all throughout.
And castle. Yeah, it's the Pacific Northwest with history.
Right. There you go.
Kind of. You know, I'm so curious to ask you about this because, especially now, look, Vegas setting lines, trying to predict things. I mean, that's literally the business, and it is the business. It is for profit. Vegas is very good at it. How hard is it right now to kind of take things to the bank? Like, do you stack rank teams in terms of, okay, we're really sure based on all these numbers, historical data, whatever, this team's going to settle somewhere between here and here. But then you look at Nebraska. Dude, it's a band of mercenaries right now. You cannot look at historical anything almost. How hard is it to peg what Nebraska is going to be about this year?
I mean, even in general, when we think we know what's going to happen with Nebraska, it's damn near impossible, right? Because you just don't know what team you're going to get. Like, they would make it close last year, but they would never actually come through with the dub, but they could cover in a lot of situations. For this year, I mean, honestly, I rely on guys like you to kind of help me out with the information. You're there every day.
Daddy, let's use some of your money and see how authoritative we are.
That's right. Well, and then this year, I mean, you know, Schmidt and I have talked about it numerous times when I've been on, and I mean, honestly, this has to be the year for Frost, right? I mean, the pressure is absolutely here. You're getting a new quarterback who you would assume would take the step forward. You're getting kind of the big guns in there coaching-wise to now take over calling the plays, and you really took advantage of the transfer portal. So, in my mind, it's really what you make of it right away. Like, if you think that's going to take an immediate impact, you could look at a game against Northwestern and say, well, Northwestern was terrible last year. They didn't really do much to improve this year. Maybe Nebraska laying 11 in this situation is actually kind of a bargain. On the other side of the coin, well, Fitzgerald typically plays them pretty close. They could have some rust week 0, especially for Nebraska, so maybe you just stay away. And then the next week, if it's a closer game that it ends up being or should have been, then you could get a better number next week for Nebraska. But I kind of take it game by game, and in my mind, I'll be like, all right, regardless of what happens here, this is what I think they should be on this line. Like, say they do lose a bad game, but then they got Oklahoma at home. Well, I still think Nebraska can hang with them. So the odds makers may think differently than what I do because I have that preconceived notion of what we had talked about numerous times throughout the summer.
Is there a team, when you look across college football, that you would say is just the most predictable in terms of how they perform against the line? Like, is there a team or two that just really stands out? It's like, you know what? Over time, if you go with these guys, you know, every week for 5 years, you're going to come out on top.
Man, I mean, like Schmidt said, I mean, Bama this year has to be the one. But of course, the odds and the spreads are going to be enormous for a team like the Crimson Tide. But man, I mean, how about as of late, Michigan State, right? Michigan State's been a team that people are like, you know, they'll take a little bit, but they've been a covering machine the past couple of years.
Interesting.
I have them as a huge question mark this season. When I'm looking at win totals, I'm like, that's kind of a 50-50 spot
7.5
for each team. Yeah, and because I look at whatever team I was looking at, and they're on the road in East Lansing, I'm like, because I go winnable, losable, toss-up games when I do my win totals, and Michigan State every time for me is a toss-up game because even if on paper they're not that great, they're just ready to play every single week with Tucker being there now. I mean, he has his boys ready to go, it seems, since he's been there. So the books now with Michigan State probably adjusting, but still a team like that as of late has been a covering machine.
It's Danny Burke, VSiN Sports Network. The Danny Burke Show airs nightly on VSiN across the country. You're hearing us, Hail Varsity Radio Weekend on ESPN Lincoln, FM 101.5, 1480 AM, and streaming ESPN Lincoln's Twitter handle and ESPN Lincoln Facebook. So can watch us this morning. Elijah Herbal doing it well back in our studios in Lincoln. So, Elijah, you've got the mustache waxed and flipped up because, you're doing the Raleigh fingers thing. God love you.
Elijah does not know who that is. Elijah was negative 17 when Raleigh Fingers was throwing.
I made him look up Raleigh Fingers. If you were going to salute the man, you better know who he is. Daddy, let's talk some things you're looking at here. There's a lot of different props for Nebraska that are out there with Casey Thompson completion percentage, Casey Thompson total completions. You have rushing yards. Brandon Vogel threw out a incredible question earlier. This was a pre-show planned. Okay. And it's points scored by Northwestern or pints consumed in Dublin. And he wasn't like angling that at me judgmentally. He just asked the question. So more pints consumed by your average Nebraska fan here at the Merry Cobbler, or more points scored by the Northwestern offense that is supposed to be uber and ultra vanilla aside from a first-round left tackle.
Right. It's got to be the pints by the Husker fans, right? I mean, that's got to take the cake 100%. Look, we made our way out here. We got everybody celebrating right now at the Merry Cobbler. It's fantastic. Like you said, not the highest expectations for Northwestern. And truthfully, I mean, based on what we saw with Nebraska's defense last year, because the prop I was considering was Northwestern's team total under. I mean, clearly the one coach to really stick around, he has to have that high expectation coming right out of the gate. And the Wildcats did nothing offensively that made me impressed or looked at them and went like, you know what, maybe they'll hang here. No, they didn't do anything. I mean, we'll see if they got something up their sleeve, but I really think it's going to be a slow, kind of ugly game on the side of Northwestern. And even if Nebraska's defense isn't as good this year, they'll make Nebraska's defense look good in week 0, and then we'll have a lot of confidence right into the next week because of it.
You know, save for a couple of categories, for the most part, Northwestern ranked in the hundreds in a bunch of categories offensively, a bunch of categories defensively, a bunch of categories special teams. Right. You're like, I mean, that was a bad team last year. Does that carry forward this year, or do you put enough stock into Pat Fitzgerald that, you know what, he's going to get this thing right?
That's the thing, right? I mean, Fitzgerald is the coach to do that, to flip around a team that was abysmal one year and make them into competitors the next. But I honestly just don't see that happening this season. Will they be more competitive? Sure. Will they not get beat 56-7 by Nebraska? Probably. But I think their win total was like 4.5. I would be shocked if they got to 5 or 6 wins this season. I just really don't think there's that big of a jump for them.
All right, before we let you get out of here and have some more soda.
That's right.
Danny Burke with us, VSiN Sports Network. Over under 4 touchdowns, the number for Nebraska. They score over 4 or under 4 touchdowns, or right at 4.
Yeah, I kind of have them right at 4, I think would be the perfect number. And it's kind of a bland answer, but you know, if you gave me 3 in the hook, I'd probably lay up to like minus 145 to bet that over. And then anything added or above, I'd probably stay away.
Rushing yards for Nebraska, over under 199.5.
That's a big question, because what kind of offense are you going to instill right out of the gates? I guess if you think they will get a big lead toward the end of the game, they're going to wind down that clock, then you take the over. But if you think it's a little bit closer, I would trend toward the under.
You have the Northwestern, Nebraska, the defensive total here, team sacks by Nebraska, over under 2.5.
Yeah, I like that over. I was looking at that one that you sent me. I thought the price would be a little bit worse, but I kind of like the over on that one, actually.
Casey Thompson touchdown passes.
Yeah.
The number at 1.5, over under.
Yeah, 1.5, I got to go over. I mean, you got to think they're trying to get him comfortable in this offense right away, and if there's the red zone opportunities, they're going to let it fly, and I think they'll get a great opportunity against Northwestern. I know it's a steep price, but I think that was my favorite prop bet, Thompson over 1.5.
Points scored by Nebraska, 38.5.
I'll go under 38.5. I do think that it's going to still be a slower game for both teams. Nebraska's got a new offense, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. You're in Dublin. It'll take a little bit. They'll look fine, but it's not going to be good enough to get them over that, I don't think.
Let's do Danny a favor. You said you were trying to glean information from us.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. Let nobody listen here. We're just going to tell Danny. All right. Okay. Everybody can listen. That's fine. According to a player's parent, who is in the receiving room, right? So a little bit of intel there. They say that, and it's not unlike what we haven't heard from others, but it was confirmed by this parent who's watched practice. Trey Palmer is the deep threat. There are not other deep threats. It is Trey Palmer or no deep threat.
Okay.
He's clearly distanced himself from the rest of the team So take that for what it's worth and put that in your crown. Yeah, he is that guy, and there is not a close second. Okay. That's the word. We'll see.
Danny Burke with us, VSiN Sports Network, Hail Varsity Radio on the road. Dublin, Ireland, ahead of Nebraska-Northwestern. Don't forget Real Red Reaction immediately following Nebraska and Northwestern on ESPN Lincoln. Elijah Herbal will be part of that. And yes, you'll have Bill Hooks chiming in. And then Jeff Moats, correct? Elijah Moats, you'll be in. And I will be here as soon as the game ends.
Yeah, we also got Tim Bob that's going to be chiming in for the Real Road Reaction Show.
One more time.
Tim Bob will be in too. Can you hear
Tim
me?
Bob Kitzmiller. All right. Excited for that. So the whole crew ready to rock and roll. Danny, thank you for coming by.
Thank you, boys.
Go
Appreciate
tip a pint. VSiN Sports Network.
Absolutely.
A quick timeout. The Iron Horse will join us. Gary Sharp on the way with Hail Varsity.
With Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, with Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're on the road in Dublin, Ireland, the Merry Cobbler, where we are located. Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbal with us, and efforting the Iron Horse, see if he's available or not. But good insight and analysis from Danny Burke from VSiN Sports Network. Appreciate Erin Sorensen and Brandon Vogel coming by as they are off to the stadium, Aviva Stadium here. About 5 minutes away, the best painting of it from Love Library to Memorial Stadium. That's the distance. And we're gearing up here. Real Red Reaction again on ESPN Lincoln afterwards, immediately following the conclusion of Nebraska-Northwestern. Some rumors that were floating around kickoff-wise earlier that have been dispelled, but you do have to question about Nebraska's health coming in with a spot on the offensive line, potentially at right tackle, and Omar Manning. What's his status today?
Yeah, and we've been hearing talk about Bryce Benhart at right tackle. The guy, this would be his third year starting already. He started since he's come on board, basically, and apparently battling the flu or something like that. And so in his absence, we could see Hunter Anthony, the transfer from Oklahoma State.
We welcome in the Iron Horse. He does not miss a beat, and more wings have shown up. Gary Sharp with us. Sharpie, good afternoon from Dublin. Good morning to you in Nebraska. Good sir, how are you doing?
Good morning. It's great to have the season underway. It sounds like you guys are at the Hail Varsity Club having a great time.
We are keeping busy. We are keeping busy in Dublin, and surprisingly, there's still a little bit of Guinness left. Sharpie, do we need to bring you some?
Well, okay. So, I mean, everybody that has gone over there has drank Guinness. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know that I can drink a loaf of bread, and I don't know that I drink it when it's warm out. But I know that a lot of people have enjoyed it, and I will enjoy a different cocktail that is, Ireland calls home.
Gary, I'll tell you, the Guinness, and I'm telling you, Guinness is it's a heavier beer in some respects, but it's not high alcohol content. It's equivalent to like a Bud Light, something like that. Might be a little up there in carbs. It does taste different here. Not been able to confirm the exact chemistry, but apparently they literally make it different here versus the kind that they ship overseas. So whatever Guinness you've had before is not the true Guinness experience you get here.
So there's another person that I know that is there that wanted to try it, and they said it does taste different in Dublin than compared to the U.S. He said it's a lot lighter over there. He's not a big Guinness person either, but he's over there and he went on the tour. But he definitely noticed the difference between the Guinness in Ireland and the Guinness that you get in the U.S. So that's good to know. I know players went to the Guinness factory the other day, so hopefully that's out of their system.
All right, Gary, so I know you're just getting up stateside, and so you might have been sleeping while some of this stuff was coming out. But the talk right now is that, and these are unconfirmed right now in terms of official statements or anything like that, but we have it on fairly good authority that Omar Manning and Bryce Benhart are likely scratches for tonight. How does that, or this morning in the U.S., how does that affect the game, if at all, in your opinion?
Well, there's going to be a couple of surprises on the list of 74 that are not dressed. Some guys you would expect on that 74. The thing with Omar is it's quite simple. You got to be available, and Omar hasn't practiced a lot of late. I don't know where he's currently at, but I know that he has not been available. And you have to understand one thing. He's got a position coach that when people ask him about Omar Manning, he doesn't know what he has, because he'll say, I can only coach what I know, and he doesn't know much about Omar Manning. So Omar Manning, available or not, is not going to play a lot, guys. He's not been available much in camp due to some issues. That's part of that unknown in the wide receiver room. Now, if Benhart cannot give it a go, then that's another issue, because quite frankly, Nebraska only trusts about 6.5 linemen, and you're going to ask them to play right out of the gate 60-plus snaps. So Nebraska's going to have to find a way to piece this game together on the offensive side of the football. But these things aren't new. These are things that they are very well aware of if they have to go to a backup at a particular position. So it's not like they woke up on game day and they're like, uh-oh, who's the next man up? They've kind of been planning, especially a wide receiver, for what a rotation without a Manning could possibly look like.
Gary Sharp with us, the Iron Horse, Hail Varsity Radio in Dublin, as we are getting ready for Nebraska-Northwestern. Sharpie, is this game for Nebraska, does it just come down to competency on offense? I know we've touched on some question marks, but is it really about running the football? And how do you anticipate the marriage today? Whipple with this offensive group, can they do enough on offense today to get a victory? Can they be complementary to what we expect from the Nebraska Blackshirts?
Well, I know a lot of talk is Nebraska wants to throw the football. That's not my sense. There's not going to be much quarterback run game. They clearly have seen that in the two scrimmages with Casey Thompson. He does not have the legs of Adrian Martinez. I think Nebraska is going to play to their strength, and I think Whipple realizes their strengths are those running backs, and that you're better apt up front to run block than you are pass block. So let's try and establish the run and see if we can run, and then run some action off of their running game. I think you'll see some play action. I would like to see Trey Palmer stretch down the field. But if Nebraska is able to establish the run, that is huge. Now, on the other side, and this is so Big Ten football, stop the run, run the ball. If Nebraska is unable to stop the run, I'm really worried, guys, because you know what Northwestern will do. They will continue to run the ball. They're not going to get fancy, and they will grind the game out, and they will just squeeze the heck out of this contest. So I think it's important for Nebraska to establish an identity early, and I think that identity today will be running the football, and then once you make it through the first quarter and you get a feel for how Northwestern is going to play you, what do you do then with a guy like Casey Thompson? Do you open it up, or do you say, you know what, we got a nice stable of running backs. Let's continue to run the ball, because Northwestern last year couldn't run the ball, and we see that they haven't made adjustments to be able to stop it this year. Why go away from it? That's where I think Whipple's strength is. I don't think Whipple will try and overthink things today against Northwestern.
One interesting factor about today with the buyout going into place October 1st is that you cannot necessarily take a long-term view if you're Scott Frost. That in mind, how short is the hook on a Casey Thompson if he is not performing well, say, in the entire first half? And if he is not performing well, does it get turned over to Smothers or Purdy?
Well, that's a great question. I brought that up a couple of weeks ago, is what if Casey is struggling today? What happens? How long do they wait? I think they'll give him a little bit longer leash than normal, but if he all of a sudden turns into your favorite bakery and he's turning the ball over, they can't afford that, and they will find somebody that does not turn the ball over. Purdy had a good fall camp, but his issue of why he did not get closer to Casey Thompson was he turned the ball over. They like Smothers, and Smothers has had a really good fall camp. I'm not sure who they would go to second, but I think the leash on Casey Thompson, it's only pulled if he becomes a turnover factory, not the team not moving the football. It's just if he is giving the ball over then they're going to make a move. I don't anticipate him turning the ball over a lot. I think they're going to keep the game plan for him very simple. You'll see a couple of times during the game where they're going to let him shine. But for the most part, I don't think Nebraska wants Casey Thompson to be the story of this game for the good or the bad. And I think they also want to establish, guys, that they can run this offense without Casey Thompson being the headliner, that you can run a Whipple offense without the quarterback so QB-centric, and that's rare because we've seen that now for so many years around here.
Gary Sharp is with us here, a Saturday morning edition at Northwestern Nebraska preview, Hail Varsity Radio. And Gary, with this offense, so much has been made of the offensive line. And maybe there's something to that right tackle story we've heard with Ben Hart maybe being sick. We'll see what 11:30 looks like. But as we're now an hour and a half away from kickoff, what is your concern level with that offensive line?
Well, it's a concern, and you know, you got some guys that you're waiting for. Now, I'm very intrigued by Turner Corcoran. I mean, he may become Zach Sterup, guys. We took some knocks on Zach when he was playing tackle. He moved inside, and you know what? That worked out for him. And he turned out to make a little money playing guard in the NFL. So is that the switch for Corcoran? You know, and you also we love Teddy, but remember, Teddy had a major knee injury, and he's not fully back a year, and they're going to ask him to play some strenuous snaps today. But I think I like the left side of the line. I think Hickson will be better. He will not be Cam Jurgens, but he'll be better. The right side of the line with the unknown of Ben Hart and then whoever's going to play that other guard spot, that does concern me. And it also concerns me, guys, because I'm looking at the course of the season. Is Nebraska's going to play 12 games, they're going to play 4 straight weeks, and they really only have full faith in about 6.5 linemen. You can't do that. And it's not like there's a reinforcement on the way that, they got a redshirt freshman or a true freshman, just get him some game reps and he'll be ready to go. So Donovan Raiola is going to have to do everything in his power to get those guys going in the right direction. But I think here's where the something can help. I think Mark Whipple plays to the strengths of his offense. And if he notices something with his offensive line that they can't do, he's not going to put him in that position to fail. So at least that is something to get you through today.
Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball, Gary. And it appears as we sit here without having seen them in a game in 2022 that you have legitimate edge pass rushing options. Caleb Tanner, Garrett Nelson, O'Shawn Mathis. How many sacks do they combine for this year? I'll set the over-under at 25.
I will go under that, but I know one thing for sure. I take this to the bank in Dublin or wherever you might be. Nebraska will have more than one guy have 2+ sacks. But I would go the under on that. Now, here's the intriguing part of that trio. And they're going to cause some issues, and they're going to benefit each other by being on the field and the attention that every one of them will draw. All three are going to play at some point today. And don't immediately think, okay, they're on the field and they're going to rush the passer. If they are Nebraska's best run stoppers, then they're on the field to stop the run as well. But you will see all three at some point play today together. I'm not sure how long, but they have run packages during camp where they've had all three on the field. But again, if they are the 3 best run stoppers amongst the 11, that's why they're on the field, not necessarily to go and get Helinski.
You know, one intriguing thing that they have done offensively this year, if we switch over to that side, and he's a guy that I think earned a lot of Nebraska fans' respect mid to end of the year, and that's Ramir Johnson, and they are moving him to more of a spot where he's practicing with the receivers and the backs. Do you think he becomes a feature part of Nebraska's offense? Maybe not the feature, but a featured part, or a guy that just gets a couple touches a game?
No, I think it's in between, Mark, between a featured back and a couple of touches. I think he's one of those guys that may not show up on the depth chart as the starter, but could play the most snaps of anybody on offense because of his versatility. I think he's a safety valve for Nebraska. He's kind of that X factor. If you need something, you go to Ramir. They'll move him around the field a little bit, which I think is an advantage. I think he will carry the ball a couple of times today, but where his most volume will be today is in the passing game. Is what does he do lining up in the slot? Whether he's a decoy, whether he's another thing that Northwestern's Jim O'Neill, the defensive coordinator, has to worry about. I think that's where you'll see Ramir the most. But I could see Ramir on a weekly basis, guys, I could see him 5, 7, maybe 8 touches a game in the entire course. And I'm going to throw return game in there as well in terms of his snaps. But in terms of touches, I could see anywhere from 5 to 8 a game. And I think Nebraska would be very comfortable with that in his workload.
Gary, I think the standard thought among Husker Nation is that Ramir Johnson's been moved out to this different position, A, because there hasn't really been a guy that can play that spot, and B, the running back room is full this season. There's a lot more talent this year. But do you think this could be something where we look back a week or two from now and we go, oh, maybe we should have seen this one coming, that Ramir is out there playing a wide receiver of sorts and catching passes, because there's not many other guys in this roster that can do that. Do you think it's because it's a wide receiver room that's a little bit devoid of the kind of talent that they want around here?
No, remember, Elijah, and to just kind of add to your question, because I know where you're going, is they liked him before they started to have questions at wide receiver. And they looked at him, and that's the thing about Whipple, that he's going to find the best guys on the field to play. Is I don't care what your position is. If you can help us win, I'm going to get you on the field. And that's kind of how they look at Ramir. You know, I wonder if Gabe Ervin does not go down with the injury against Oklahoma, does Ramir play much last year? Or it's because, oh, no, we are very limited at running back. We don't like step. We have an injury to Ervin. Ramir, you got to play. But I think in this case, as people are looking, as Whipple is looking at his strengths, they're just saying he's a really good football player that can help us. And he's also a guy that can catch the football out of the backfield. And so why not put him on the field to be part of the wide receiver crew? He says, I want to be listed as a wide back. I don't know if Mickey takes him as one of his own or Brian takes him one of his own. But the fact that he's on the field just shows you how versatile he is, but also he's one of their best 11. That's another thing to keep in mind, guys. We talk about positionless football. Yeah, you got to have certain positions where, you can't stick Ramir playing left tackle. But they're looking at this as the best 11 will play. The best 11 players they will find to put on the field, and Ramir is one of their best 11 or best 12, 13, so that's why he's going to be out there.
Gary Sharp with us, the Iron Horse, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow in Dublin. We are at the Merry Cobbler, Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbal. Sharpie, we'll let you get out, but thanks for making time and waking up with us again. I need a prediction. What shakes out in Dublin? What say you?
Well, I think Nebraska wins 24-14. I think it might be a slow start to the game. Not sloppy, but I think it'll be a slow start as both teams try and feel each other out with some new personnel in different places. But I think Nebraska wins by 10. It'll be a low-scoring game. So I will take the Northwestern points. I will go with the under. I will take a Nebraska victory, and I'm sure we'll parse through how it looked. But one thing I would be shocked today. I guess I could say I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska lost, but one area where I would be shocked, guys, if Nebraska has a special teams gaffe. I think Nebraska today will have a moment in special teams where you go, welcome, Bill Bush, where have you been all my life?
That's very fair. Bush and his attention to detail and his passion and energy and the prioritization of special teams has been sorely missed in Lincoln. That's fixed. Now they got to kind of match and get up to speed at the level he wants. Anything average will do wonders this season when it comes to the win-loss total.
Does he make $450?
He makes more than $450, doesn't he, Sharpie?
Yeah, he is well worth more than $450. So we have now officially retired that hash mark.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
I'm going to look up his salary here.
Yeah, he is. Sharpie, we'll tip one for you, partner, and we'll see you stateside here in a little while.
Hey, guys, enjoy it. I've enjoyed following your journeys, and take it all in. What a hell of an experience for you guys, Nebraska football, and the whole fan base. And hopefully in about 6 hours or so, we're going to be enjoying one of those Guinnesses as well.
Hey, Bill Bush, according to reports, 400.
400.
Doesn't have quite the same ring as 450, but 400.
They do their job, and he'll be at 450 next year.
Hey, it doesn't roll off your tongue as easily as 450.
Gary, before we let you go here, you missed your opportunity to say Schmidt and Mark are bubbling in Dublin.
This came from our show yesterday. Guys, we are bubbling in Dublin. Enjoy.
You too, partner. See you. There he is. Very sharp with us. The Iron Horse. Kraynak, we've been doing Saturday shows a long time. And we've been to Norman, we've been to Boulder, we've been to about everywhere.
Yeah.
As Johnny Cash would say, Vic in Denver is bringing us a shot.
Bless you.
That's my guy.
Get in here, Vic. Those wings are for you, by the way. So cheers. All right, so scoot around here, camera. Vic, all the way from Denver. Avid listener of Hail Varsity. We love him. Vic, cheers it. How was the trip?
It's good. I went to the Irish Whiskey Museum yesterday. I'm feeling a little pain today.
Okay, so no pain in about 6 hours. That's what Nebraska.
The fact that a alcohol museum exists just gives me great faith in humanity.
That's pretty good. We're going to cheers it, and enjoy. Solantes are out right.
Solante.
I got a man up here.
You're supposed to sip it.
Oh,
what did we get here?
Power.
Powers?
Yeah, I wanted to get you.
Elijah's saying you drunks need to go to break for good. Real Red.
I thought we were off the air.
No.
There's Dublin for you.
Elijah, we love you. We'll talk to you in about 6 hours for Real Red Reaction. Thanks for listening to ESPN Lincoln and Hail Varsity Radio. See ya.